What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Christian Kuntz Podcast, Season 1, Episode 18. Today, I'm here with my boys Jesse and Trey.
Yo.
We got Swing Behind the Boards. We got a very special guest here, man. A guy that from Hawaii, born and bred, LS Boo Boy, Breiden Fehoko. B, how you feeling today?
I'm great, man.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me on the pod.
You got to get a massage here? We got to get you in and out of here?
Yeah, man, I was going to say something, but I'll say that off camera about that.
I want to give a special shout out before we get going. Veterans Day was yesterday. Sometimes we record on Mondays, but shout out to my Uncle Denny and all the vets out there, man. Uncle Denny's a loyal listener. He's been in the Air Force for 40 plus years. This dude retired. We went to his retirement party like 20 years ago, and then he's still working for the Air Force, but we don't know what he does. You talk to Uncle Denny, you're like,
stop asking all them questions.
Yeah, what do you do for work? And he's like, work? I'm like, what do you do for work, though? And he, work. Ask him the third time, I'm going to have to report you. You keep asking him, I'm going to have to report you. So shout out to Uncle Denny. Yeah. Shout out to Uncle Denny and all the vets out there, man. That's a big thing, and he's a loyal listener, as he calls himself. So we gotta show Uncle Denny some love. He'll like that.
Shout out.
He definitely got a chew in right now. He's got a dip. He calls them dip eggs. He got a dip egg in on his way to work, listening to this podcast right now. I guarantee it.
I love it.
He a Miller Lite guy?
He's not. He's not a drinker. He's a dip egg. A good dip egg. Copenhagen, wintergreen, long cut. He's the type of guy that take that out when it's cold, put it on top of the car.
Ain't got many
Wait
gums.
for it. Go into the store, come out.
Let that flavor sit?
Yeah,
baby.
That's a real man right there.
Yeah, he's a badass.
His gums don't exist.
Oh
dude.
no, he don't. He's got steel gums. Uncle Denny's a badass dude. Yeah. B, I appreciate you coming on. I wanna hop right into this. Growing up in Hawaii, like, what was football like growing up? Like, were you always the biggest dude on the team? Like, were you playing like running back in the day growing up?
It's crazy. When I was in high school, I was not this big. I mean, I'm big. You know, some people call me fat, but
You're big.
I'm very muscular for my size, in my opinion. But no, I was like 230 pounds in high school. Didn't really hit a growth spurt and a stomach spurt until I got to college. And they put me on a meal plan and some protein shakes, and I blossomed from like 230, 240 pounds to 310 pounds in college.
Oh, my gosh. What the hell kind of meal plan was that?
I mean, we didn't have the resources in Hawaii that you guys do in the States. So,
Yeah.
But football's big in Hawaii, man. It's everything. I mean, you can talk to anybody you know, the Herbigs, Roman Wilson, anybody who has Hawaii ties, Isaac. They'll tell you that. I mean, football in Hawaii is like a religion out there.
Why do like people talk? I remember I was in training camp and I was sitting out in front of Rooney Hall, you know, in that like where everyone sits and kind of bullshits. And Mike T was even saying that Mike T was there, and like Vince Williams, a bunch of guys were there just telling stories, and they were saying like, don't ever fuck with a Samoan dude. Like Samoan dudes, like
Never.
Like Hawaii, like these dudes you hit them and they like got a steel rod in their back.
Yeah.
Like, why is that? Like, I feel like all Samoan dudes, like they hit hard,
fight.
they run fast, and they're fucking tough as nails. Like, where does that come from?
I don't know about running fast, but definitely hit hard and
Hit
get back
hard.
a punch.
Yes.
I think it's scientifically proven that Polynesians have higher bone densities, and so they're just thicker people that, you know, we're just gifted in some ways that, you know, we're blessed to. And that's why you see a lot of Polynesians, Samoans, Tongans, Fijians play a lot of lineman positions in the NFL, whether it's offensive lineman or defensive lineman.
Yeah, you're right. Wow.
Because we're not as gifted, you know, in the skill part of football as running and catching and all that kind of stuff. But as far as blocking and tackling and pushing somebody and shoving somebody, I think that's what we're good at.
Yeah. So like just to kind of double on what he was saying, like, are you guys doing something like? Because when you look at a guy that's like raised in the country, so it's like, oh, he's been, you know,
It's that warrior mindset.
Yeah, he's been throwing bales of hay since he was little. So like you're kind of building from a very young age. Like, are you like? What do you think it is? Are you guys lifting really young? Is it wrestling? Like what do you think that like originates?
Bro, it's the food.
The food.
Food. The Polynesian food is heavy in starch.
Gotcha.
A lot of pig. Like growing up, a whole lot of pig. Like cooking underground for 8 hours. We're eating pig every week.
Interesting.
We're eating a lot of corned beef. Like, and it's not no like corned beef you buy here from the store. It's like New Zealand ox and palm corned beef.
Good corned beef.
It's crack. It's like it's like remember when crack hit the 80s? Like that's it for the Polynesian. You pull out a can of those, like I guarantee if I had a can of oxen palm New Zealand corned beef, there's Samoans probably coming in this room right now.
Like they're smelling it.
They're around. They're around. Isaac Seomalu's probably pulling up as soon as I open that can.
It's like sharks in water.
Oh, it's lethal. It's lethal.
It's crazy because there are a ton, I feel like, of Paulies and people from Hawaii that are like very, very good players in the NFL. And you know, I you don't really see that often. Like, I don't know, I feel like they all go to Utah or like somewhere around like
California,
the West
Arizona
Coast.
State. Yeah.
The West Coast.
Yeah, like Oregon State, I feel like always got guys that like come out of Hawaii or whatever that are like straight dogs.
It's a comfort zone thing. Like it's hard for Polynesians to branch out because we're so family oriented and a tight knit community and culture that you come out here to Pittsburgh, it's kind of out of our
culture
it's
shock.
out of our culture shock, comfort zone, whatever you want to call it. That's why you always see them stay in the Californias, the Oregons, the Washingtons. You know, they kind of start slowly migrating to the East Coast, but you really, even still to this day, I feel like there's not really a lot of Polynesians.
But you're
out there.
different. There's something about you that's way different because you ain't do the normal Polynesian route, bro. You went to Texas Tech and then you went to LSU.
Yep.
You went the complete opposite from everybody. So like,
It's crazy.
I'm curious, bro, because there's a little bit that I've seen about you, right? As they know, I do my research, right? So I started asking questions. I'm like, okay, who is this guy? Now I remember you before I ever got to know you, and I'm pretty sure the whole world knows you. They just don't know they know you.
Yeah.
Right. So
Correct.
your family comes out. They kill the dance. You know what I'm saying? It's a family.
haka.
The haka dance. I love that dance. I'm not gonna lie to you.
It's
intimidating.
When I seen that,
It's intimidating.
I was ready to go punch somebody in the face. Just go and put it out there. I know everybody else agrees, but I was ready to smack somebody in the face.
Yeah.
Now, I want to know a little bit more about your culture because I don't feel like a lot of people talk enough about Hawaii as a culture. Although you're considered a 50th state, right? You're still your own state, essentially, right? So, like, talk about that a little bit because your dad also was the mascot for Hawaii, which is crazy.
Correct.
And then on top of that, right? I know y'all do the haka dance since you're like infants, like 3 years old.
Yeah.
So talk about that culture a little bit.
So my dad comes from Tongan heritage. My dad was born and raised in the islands of Tonga. His grandfather's from Tuanuku, Tonga, and my grandmother's from Vava'u, Tonga. Tonga, till this day, is the last monarchy remaining in the world. They are not ruled by the government of the United States of America. They're not ruled by the French. They're not ruled by the British. They're a monarchy. They have their own king still to this day. They fight their own wars. They fund their own economy. That's what they do. Fiji, however, that's where my mom's from. She was born in Suva, Fiji. They are owned by, or not owned, but they have, American government and all that kind of stuff. So they're a little more updated in, their economy, their industrial, however, they decide to move. They have the American government backing them. But as far as Polynesian culture as a whole, it's very unique because, like I said earlier, we're family oriented, we're tight knit. There's not a lot of us. We're very isolated. You look at the Polynesian culture, it's all islands, right? We're surrounded by water. Back in the olden days, we weren't able to, and we weren't afforded to be able to fly on planes or use trains to travel. My ancestors were voyagers. They traveled by canoes. Like, you ever watch the movie Moana?
Yeah.
And how she was a wave rider? Like, that's how my ancestors traveled amongst the islands.
Not gonna lie, that show was cracking.
It's
I'm
crazy.
watching number 2 coming out soon. Just letting y'all know
It's
if you haven't
crazy.
watched it.
And like, to know that my ancestors didn't have no type of way of communication but using the stars as a voyage on how to go from island to island.
Wild.
They didn't have tools. They used coconut leaves to make baskets, to make hats. They carved their own primitive tools to go hunt. They provided. They were hunters. They were gatherers. And that's what my culture is made out of. And I still carry that with me to this day because it's a part of me. It's in my blood. It's in my DNA to go hunt, to go gather, to go provide for my family. The times may change. Technology may be updated now, but you can't take away the blood and the DNA of what you share from your ancestors from 1600, 1500,
Wow, that's pretty sweet. B's he's a newly father. You had his baby at training camp, right?
Congratulations.
Training camp.
Training
Yes, sir.
camp, yeah. He has baby in
Appreciate
training
it.
camp. You're instilling these already in him. I see the pictures.
Yeah.
This boy, he's
Already?
already, yeah.
thick.
He's thick, yeah.
He's on that
thick
diet.
for sure. Yeah, he's ready. Is your wife? She's not Polynesian, correct?
No, she has no ounce of Polynesian.
So how did that go about? Like when you were introducing her originally to your family, like were they kind of more so like, well, we kind of want you to be with a poly girl?
Good
Or
question.
were they kind of more like open to it? Whoever you love, and we're going to love her as well?
Very good question. So in the Polynesian culture, it's very, very heated that
Yeah.
it's a debate. You know, the olden day Polynesian culture is you marry within your culture. You marry your own,
Yeah.
just because our culture and our
That blood's
traditions,
strong.
it's strong.
Yeah.
And it's hard to understand our traditions, right? So for example, whenever there's a funeral, like whenever somebody in the family dies, there's like a week long leading up of events, right? Where people come and give you offerings. You know, there's certain things we have, like it's called a putu, where people show up, they bring food, they bring pigs. I'm talking about like 8 raw pigs, just like being carried on like just, you know, like, yeah, you like roast it, you put a stick through it, they tie the legs and it's like hanging upside down. Just families coming, bringing pigs, bringing, you know, tapioca, bringing manioca. It's just another way for you know, breadfruit, what we call it. And so for someone outside of the culture, like, you know, you see someone in a funeral, it's usually you have like a gathering, it's simple, and then you bury the person. With us, it's like a week-long celebration. And so to get thrown into these traditions, it was very different.
Yeah.
Like at our wedding, right, we have this thing called the Taulunga dance where the bride, you know, or the person who's getting married, they do a dance, and it's a cultural dance, and historically, you make it rain money.
Yeah.
Like that, it's the money dance. And so when my wife was doing it and when she was practicing, she had no idea what she was doing. But just those kind of culture shock things it was very hard for her.
Yeah.
But thankfully, my parents, my father moved to the States when he was 9. My mother moved here when she was in college. She came on a visa for a college scholarship to go to BYU Hawaii. And thankfully, my parents are very well educated, and they allowed us to, you know, go love who we want to love and go be with who we want to be with. And, you know, thankfully I met my wife, and, you know, my parents didn't care about me marrying out of the culture.
See that? I feel like my yaya, you know, when she wanted us to marry her, she's 100% Greek. She wanted us to marry Greek. She's like, you need to marry Greek. But now, obviously, we're 2024.
Different times.
Yeah, different times. But it's cool to hear about the poly culture and like how strong it is. I feel like that's not normal nowadays. Like I feel like everyone's kind of shying away from that and kind of doing their own things. But the poly culture kind of is true.
Very true.
It's true blood. So what kind of? I know you got 3 older brothers. I was reading 2 of them went to Texas Tech.
Yes.
What kind of is that what led you to go to Texas Tech, or who were you being recruited by coming out of high school? And like take us through your senior year of high school. You were probably balling to go to Texas Tech. So like take us through that and like why go to Texas Tech?
I mean, now that NIL is legal, I could probably say it. Well,
Yeah, you could say
money.
Yeah. All right.
Money.
Yeah.
It was a no-brainer for me. I mean, when I went to Texas Tech, I mean, my brother got put on staff as a linebackers coach there. My other brother got a job as a strength coach there.
Oh hell yeah.
Cheat code.
You know, my parents eat. I took the family eats. Everybody eats in my family. You know, if I'm eating, everybody else is going to eat. And so to me, it was one of those things where I was very comfortable with my brothers being there. I had a really good relationship with Cliff Kingsbury coming out.
Oh yeah, he was there.
And Mike Smith was my recruiting coach for the Packers and the Vikings for many years. But I love those 2 guys a lot, strictly because when I gave them my word of coming there to Texas Tech and attending there, they took care of my family. And so I was like, I couldn't be any more grateful. But up until that point, I was heavily committed to Alabama. I was silently committed to Coach Saban. Yeah.
Wow.
He still don't make no sense.
It was crazy. Chris Rumpf was my recruiting coach. Me and Dunbar talk about it all the time. We joke around about it all the time. But yeah, I was gonna go to Alabama. And the reason I didn't end up going there was because, never forget, Nick Saban sits me down in his office, and mind you, I just torched his camp. Like there was the Alabama elite camp. I torched every offensive lineman in the country that was there, 5-star, 4-star, you name it. And I'm rushing my ass off. I'm killing everybody. We get to the office, right? Nick Saban goes, "Well, Breiden, we're going to give you a scholarship here to go to Alabama." And I'm smiling. He goes, "But I have a plan for you." I'm like 240 pounds. He's like, "Are you going to come in here? You're going to redshirt a year?" And I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
That's not the worst part. The worst part, he goes, you'll be a hell of a center for the University of Alabama.
No.
Oh, man.
He wanted you to play offense.
He wanted me to play offensive line. And the funny part about it was I told my dad was like,
Pissed.
this dude doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about.
Did you play center? Did you play?
I played no offense
At all?
At all. I played a little bit of tackle and tight end because we ran like the wing team.
You
in
said
high school.
tight end?
But like when Nick Saban told me, he's like, I want you to redshirt a year and I think you'll be a first round center coming out of the University of Alabama, I lost it. I was like, no shot. No. Not doing it. This guy's smoking crack.
Wow.
He probably was right. I probably could have been first center.
That's crazy.
It's funny because I'm like, what does Nick Saban know?
Yeah. And the fact that your dad was like, this guy doesn't know shit.
He's like, son, you're going to be a hell of a defensive lineman. I was like, yep, Dad, you're right.
That is unbelievable.
Yes.
All right, so
I was just gonna
Go
say,
ahead,
so
Jess.
like you were just married to the idea of like I'm a defensive guy, like there, because I know some people are like, hey, whatever coach says, right? And I'm not saying that you know you were going against coach's wishes or whatever,
Yeah.
but like what was in the thought process of that? Because I know that there are some guys that would have made that switch, but were you just that set? Like this is what I need to be doing?
Well, my oldest brother played offensive line. And so it was kind of a thought, right? That I was a big kid. I could transform into offensive line. But my two older brothers who went to Texas Tech after that played outside linebacker and defensive end. And so to me, it was kind of like I wanted to follow that. I wanted to wear the single digit in college. You know, I wasn't more of a selfless guy. I wanted to make plays, be a me guy. And so I was like, offensive line's not going to do that for me.
Yeah.
You know, these guys are
Facts,
fat.
though.
yeah,
They don't.
these guys are
You know, they don't get
Yeah.
no ladies. Like they're ugly. They stink.
I love the honesty.
They have like
this
6
honesty
cans.
is great.
They carry 6 cans of dip in their locker.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
I'm sorry.
Listen, Uncle Denny's listening to this
I'm
right
sorry,
now.
Uncle Denny, but offensive linemen are like one of the worst breeds of football players in the world. Like,
Bro,
I don't
This is
respect them.
incredible.
I don't respect them at all.
this
This
is
is so
beautiful.
great.
This
I
is
love
like,
this.
yeah, this is a D lineman.
I mean,
just
keep it a
talking.
buck. Show me an offensive lineman who keeps their locker clean,
Yeah, that's fact.
and I'll show you. I'll show you a 6-pack on my body.
You're right. You're right. You just have some kind of hatred towards offensive linemen.
I do, and part of it's because of Nick Saban. But
Oh, this all makes sense.
Oh, so it's real beef.
This makes
It's
sense.
real
beef.
beef.
It's
All
beef.
right.
It's personal.
Respect. Love it.
does every D lineman have some kind of hatred towards offensive linemen?
For sure.
Like I feel like our even like everybody in our locker room is tight. Like
Tight.
we are in a good locker room, but I do feel like some of our D linemen don't like some of our O linemen.
For sure.
Like especially in the training camp days, like they are annoyed with those dudes. Like you guys are annoyed with them, and like y'all, they're hitting every day, bro.
It's just they're lazy.
He is going off.
They're
Keep
bro.
going.
They're stink. They're lazy. You ever walk into an offensive line's dorm room in Latrobe? It just smells like 6th grade feet and deodorant. Like you know them little elementary kids that come in
Yes.
from PE after and they just smell like buns. Like that's how an offensive line's room in
Like
Latrobe.
Axe body spray.
Axe body spray and sweat. Like that's how it smells like. But you know what? You know what I do? I do respect about offensive linemen is their camaraderie and how much they are tight knit group. I do respect that a lot about them because they do have so much trust in each other. And it's very cool because, you know, offensive linemen, they're always doing O-line dinners.
Right.
You know, they're always hanging out together. Like with D-line, yeah, we hang out, but like when we're done with the day, I just want to go home. Like,
Right.
I don't want to see you guys until work tomorrow. But like offensive linemen, they're going to Applebee's, you know.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to go get wing Thursday, 60-cent wings from Buffalo Wild Wings. Like, they're doing all that shit. You know, like, at the end of the day, like, I love you guys as a team, but I can't do that. I got to go home and see my family.
Yeah, you need a
funny.
little time.
So I got a question for you. So I have a couple friends who are Samoan, and they say that basically their whole family can fight. I didn't think that was true until I realized that was true, right? So like, got punched a couple times in my lip, realized like, oh, he really does this. Like, he's been doing this for a while. So like, I was curious, like, does that play a role into how you play as well a little bit? Because like, I feel like you had 2 older brothers. You're the youngest in the family.
Yeah.
So you got your ass whooped a lot. So my curiosity is like, when did you learn how to fight back? And once you learned how to fight back, how did that play a role for you on the field?
So it was tough growing up as the youngest. Man, I always got, I'm not going to say bullied because they were my older brothers,
I'm the
but
youngest too. Yeah.
But I got slapped around, punched around. My dad had a little stint in the CFL, so he had a bunch of shoulder pads, helmets, cleats, and he would dress us up in the backyard and we would hit each other until like our noses were bloody. Like it was some Joe Jackson type discipline in the Fehoko household.
Hold on, you can't.
It's like, yo, we're just hitting each other in the backyard.
Like it was like my oldest brother Whitley. He's the oldest. He's the offensive lineman. I'm talking about like we would do one-on-one pass rush, and like I'm over here like shaking in my boots before I'm going, and he just like picks me up, slams me, and my dad's just sitting there. He's like, again.
Oh my God.
And like it was crazy. Like I never feared anybody. Like I feared my dad the most growing up.
Yeah.
But my oldest brother is like still to this day, like I fear him more than anybody else in the world. Just cause like that grown man strength of like somebody grabbing you and you feel like that, oh shit.
Yeah,
Like,
you try to do that to me on a daily basis.
I do it on a daily basis to Christian a lot. You know?
He tries to. He tries to.
I don't try to. I do it. But he's a good kid, man.
I'm fucking older than you, bro.
You are.
Yeah.
I know you are.
Oh, that is funny. No, for real though, he rushes on like sometimes in punt protection. You know, they put D linemen in the A gap like teams that we play. So Danny Smith likes to put this dude rushing on punts when we're facing a team that puts and he gets off the ball and like. Normally, like I'm like bracing for a hit, and like someone will kind of like put their shoulder down and like absorb some body contact. He just comes and he just hits you with one little fucking and like I'm like this, but he don't like hit you with his head, nothing. He just hits you with and then he just walks you back like this. I'm like, come on, bro.
The funniest shit is when we're out there and like E-Rob's next to Christian on punt, and E-Rob's like. Yeah, Kuntz, you got that one on your own.
E-Rob's like, yeah, you blocking left, you got him? I'm like, yeah, he sent me left. I'm like, okay.
Everybody just loves watching Christian get teed off on during practice. It's
so
the funniest
funny.
thing.
You must talk too much shit, bro.
Oh, he talks the most shit. He talks the most shit I've ever seen.
To a lot of people. Yeah, it's probably not smart. But it's definitely fun.
It is fun.
It's fun.
This is why I love working with Christian. He's my favorite criminal.
Yeah.
He's a little instigator too.
I am an instigator.
I mean, Mike T talks shit to you like
oh my God, dude.
What does he say? I'm curious.
everything and anything.
Man, I mean, just like he call. I walk out of the meeting room and he's like, civilian. I'm a rare civilian.
We had a little family day in Latrobe where let me tell a story. So we had a little family day in Latrobe, and we're all like the family and extended family members. They get to be in a gym. They have activities to do for the kids. They have barbecue. It's a cool little experience. You get to meet the other teammates, meet the coaches and stuff. And so Mike T's just kind of reiterating the fact that TJ Watt's going to be in there. Russell Wilson's going to be in there. Cam Hayward, control your family. Don't get out of pocket letting them ask for autographs. And as he's saying this, he goes down the list. He's like, hey, make sure, Justin Fields going to be in there. Control your families, Christian. And he's like, make sure you don't bring all these extended family from Duquesne to our family event day.
So they go at you on a daily.
He literally was like, Christian and all of his 32nd cousins are going to be there. So, be on high alert. I'm like, dude, I literally didn't even have anybody up there for family day. I'm from here. My family doesn't need to come up. I'm going home after anyway. I haven't had anybody up in family day for the last 4 years, and yet I still get that joke every year. Everyone's like, damn, you really let your family come up and bug people? I'm like, dude, my family hasn't even been up here.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but we had on Fridays, they always bring like a Make-A-Wish kid up there for practice, right?
To meet, yeah.
And, Mike T always introduced, he's like, man, this kid's a big TJ Watt fan.
This was the funniest thing I've ever heard.
He's battling, whatever. And, he's been really having a tough time. But, we want to, introduce this Make-A-Wish kid, and everybody's just shouting, Christian, Christian.
It's messed up, and then it was messed up, and then this was that 2 years ago or last year? Cam when Mike T made that joke, Cam picked me up like a feather, bro. I'm 235, 240. He literally just picked me up I was fucking Rudy, bro. And then And then Rudolph started chanting, Rudy, and everyone started chanting it. It was best up.
Yo,
Rudolph was a good dude. How about
dude.
how about that time we had that plane incident?
Oh, yeah.
Coming back, was that from Vegas?
Vegas and the LA game. It was the Vegas game where we had to stop in Kansas City.
So we had like what was it, code? They called it like a code orange or
Code
something.
yellow.
Code yellow. Or we on the plane and like some technical thing
I've been
happened
a part
with the
of that,
plane,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't bad. Like the plane wasn't going down, but everybody's like asleep because it was a Sunday night game and we're coming back from it, and like the flight attendant gets on the PA system and is like, "Ladies and gentlemen, we have just been informed from the captain that we are having a code yellow. Don't panic. We prepare for times like this." And then Rudolph goes, "Well, boys, it's been a fun ride." Hey, and
There's
E-Rob's
always
like,
the one guy.
and E-Rob's like,
Jesse.
E-Rob goes, "Chill, bro. I got a family, man. I got kids."
Everyone was freaking out. That plane ride was crazy. The fact that they got on the mic and they were like,
Yeah,
we
we
trained
for this.
Don't worry." Everyone's like, what do you mean? Like, how do you
We
train
ain't
for
trained for
this?
this.
Yeah.
What is going on?
Crazy.
That's
But
hilarious.
Good team building exercise right there.
Yeah.
You really get to see who's who in that
Great
moment.
team
you got James Pierre. Please, not like this, bro. I can't go down like
Man,
this.
it ain't going down like this, man.
Oh my god.
In the back of the plane, hysterical.
How many guys during those times, like, legitimately were like nervous? Because we always got those couple guys on the team who really
Everybody.
don't fly.
Everybody, bro.
Bro.
Everybody.
Yeah.
So we had something like that at Pitt, and I think we were playing like Georgia Tech or something like that. And we're in the air, like the whole plane, all the lights turn off, it just shuts off. Mind you, bro, like I can't lie to you, for a split second, I was cooked. I was scared.
For sure.
Oh my goodness. Because like in that point, bro, like in my head, I'm also the weird person who believes that if this plane crashes, some way, somehow, I'm tucking and rolling out of this.
Right before it lands, I'm gonna jump out and
Yeah.
I'm surviving this plane.
Like some way, somehow.
I did it on GTA before it works.
Like I've seen it. I've seen it once. And there's a couple times, you know how they always ask the person in the exit, like, are you ready to help people evacuate?
Yeah. Right.
I realize this about myself. I might not be that person. Like I really, like realistically, Christian, like I don't know if I'm the person that helps people out as the plane's going down. I feel like some parts of me become selfish right now.
Yeah, that would be interesting because you do swear an oath if you're sitting in the exit row.
Yeah,
They're like, you're gonna help. You're gonna help. How many people you think are actually helping in that
That's what I mean.
situation?
I give 2 people max.
That's like so.
Two people
he
max.
said peace. He's gone.
I'm gone. I got a family.
Yeah, dude. That's
Hey,
so.
if it's going
theory.
down, I see y'all. I'm out.
That's
I'm
crazy.
gone.
Yeah.
It's so
I think that's how
crazy.
most people function. Like, there's so many people that be like, "Oh, if I was in this situation, this is what I do." It's like until the plane's
Until it's going down, you're
yeah,
like,
it's like
"Dog."
it's great to say you think you would do that until you're actually crashing.
Now, this is the funniest thing I've seen
Crazy.
so far. Do you guys watch stand-up comedy?
Yeah.
Okay, so Matt Rife did this one,
Yeah.
and I'm not gonna lie, like it made sense. They were talking about like the bags under the seat. I think that's the dumbest thing in the world because if this plane's going down, I agree with him here. If the plane's going down, what is this bag under my seat, right,
it
or
the
even
breathing?
on my lap, gonna do to help this person from not dying? If the plane's going down, realistically,
that's
you
true.
know what I'm saying?
Nobody's
like,
thinking
ain't
straight.
nobody tripping. And if you trip, where you going, bud?
Yeah,
you gonna run to the front of the plane?
Everybody's still on the plane. That's true.
Yeah,
I
it
never
doesn't make
got
any
that.
sense.
I never got that. I never understood why you had to put your bag under the seat.
I feel like every seat should have like a parachute.
That'd be smooth.
Automatically
Yeah, that-
ejects as
Like,
soon as
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Like I know the pilot has a parachute, right?
right.
Yeah.
So why does he get a parachute? I
Yeah,
don't get a
That's
parachute.
crazy work. That's
Yeah.
true.
And
Bit
the
of
flight attendants, I
hierarchy.
think, have parachutes too.
Should we start our own airline?
So
Kuntz Airway.
Get Kuntz Airway. Get that plane ready. I fly private.
Air Kuntz.
Talk to me. Talk to me about LSU. LS Boo, we call it. He plays Boo Ray, and he gets booed nonstop.
No,
So
I don't.
call-
You just,
So he's
I
Boo Man?
just booed you last Friday. I
You're-
don't want to talk about the amount of money, but you suck.
It always
was-
comes out. It's every time we have a guy on this pod.
I want to
Comes,
learn how to
like,
play.
Sorry,
I genuinely
dude.
do.
It was.
Holy
I didn't
moly.
even
Sounds
know.
like
what-
you get booed
He's in my
a lot.
books.
You're in my books.
This guy keeps he messes up his books. No joke. Every time, his numbers are flipped.
At this point, like the money you pay me is like money laundering. At this point, like it's bad. You're
Nah.
paying for my son's diapers.
I don't mind getting your son some diapers.
He appreciates
Going
that.
to a
We're
good
getting the
cause.
bougie ones anyways.
We get the bougie
We
diapers.
get bougie diapers. Uncle Christian's paying for it.
The Louis V dipes.
Talk to me about LSU. You transfer there. Why'd you transfer? You left Texas. Did Cliff leave Texas Tech, and you were like, I'm going to LSU.
No, Cliff was still there, and it was a tough conversation with Cliff just because, how he took care of not just me, but my family and all that. But a big reason for me leaving was the turnover on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, from when I first got to Texas Tech in December of 2014, I graduated early from high school.
wow.
I had 3 different D-line coaches in a year and a half. So they fired the first D-line coach that recruited me there, hired another one for my freshman year, fired him after my freshman year, and hired another one for my sophomore year.
That sucks.
And right as I was leaving after my sophomore year, they just hired another guy. So I was like, Cliff understood where I was coming from, just from a development standpoint. And it's funny, how we talk about the whole Polynesian thing about being so culturally engraved in like the West Coast, Washington, Oregon type of thing. When I left Texas Tech, I originally wanted to go to the Pac-12. I had my mindset on going to USC and Oregon because we were in talks about it. And then I answer my name. Well, not answer, but I go to compliance because this was before NIL, the transfer portal. And all my offers came from SEC schools.
Wow.
No Pac-12 school offered me.
Not one?
Not one.
That's
it was
crazy.
It was all SEC schools. And so my top 3 were Auburn, Georgia, and Alabama. And then LSU, and then I'm going to LSU. That's how that happened.
Who was the coach at LSU at the time?
Ed Orgeron, baby.
Wow. And then you guys won a natty.
We won a natty.
How was that?
It was unreal.
Ooh.
It was unreal. I mean, it went by like a blur, Like I remember that year, but I don't remember it because it just happened so fast, and it was just like
You were just winning.
you were on adrenaline almost every game. And we started steamrolling teams. Like, this is how I know we were good. We hopped out on Bama like 24-3 or 6 that game. And the only way they could score was through like trick plays.
Yeah.
Like, you talk to Najee about it, he'd be like, man, we were in that game. Like, they were doing trick plays to catch up in that game. Like, and we knew like we were that team. And then I talked with Justin Fields about it last week. We had just 60-pieced Oklahoma in the playoffs.
I remember that. That
Justin
was crazy.
Jefferson went for like 4 touchdowns in
Yeah.
the first half. And we were watching the Ohio State-Clemson game, and we wanted to play Ohio State because Joe Burrow had just transferred from Ohio State.
He wanted that.
He wanted that revenge.
Joe Shiesty.
So we're watching that game, and as soon as Trevor Lawrence takes off for that game-winning touchdown, we're like, turn this off, man. This ain't it, man. We knew we were gonna beat Clemson, but we wanted to play Ohio State bad.
Wow.
I mean, we knew we were gonna whoop whoever's ass we played, but
You guys were loaded.
we wanted Ohio
different.
State just because of that Joe Burrow transferring from there.
What was it like? Because I heard a story. I don't know if it's true, but a lot of people said that Joe Burrow didn't run the team, but like he had a aura about him that like if Joe enters this game, like get with the program.
Yeah, it was one of those. You ever hear about those guys that like they don't say much, but when they say something,
Shut
it
up.
kind of moves a room.
Right.
Yeah.
He was one of those guys. He never really said much, but whenever he spoke to the team, because he's very soft spoken.
Yeah.
And whenever he spoke to the team, it was like,
Powerful.
all right, let's lock the fuck in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we got to go. So,
Man,
Love that.
They had some killers on that team. Justin
Bro,
Jefferson,
your team was
Jamar.
loaded.
killers.
Yeah, some killers, bro.
What was that atmosphere in like Death Valley?
I mean, crazy.
Like they say that's the hardest place to play college football.
It is. I mean, Brian Kelly changed that, but I mean, we'll talk about it another time. But it is one of the most.
Yeah, they didn't.
It's just from an atmospheric standpoint. It's such a great place to play. You have to, even if you're not an LSU fan, you have to experience that just once in your life, a night game in Death Valley.
What's the chant? You know the chant I'm talking about? They be like, oh.
Oh yeah, and they're all singing it.
Suck that tiger
dick, bitch.
Is that what they
That's
say?
crazy,
Yeah.
bro.
Did you not hear
It's
Pat
crazy.
McAfee do it? So they banned it. You can't do it now. But if the band does play it, you get fined. So my senior year, Odell got the band to play it on senior night when we played A&M. Odell took care of the fines.
No,
was
that is
great.
so
That's
great.
tough.
It was cool.
That's tough.
And what's funny was like we got to the national championship game, and Odell was handing out like stacks of money.
I was
And
gonna
then-
say,
yeah,
I
they
seen
banned
that.
him. They
That's-
banned him for like a year or 2 years from the school.
Gave like Jamar Chase.
I
He was
remember
just like
I rem-
$10,000, $5,000.
I wish I was there.
Yeah,
I
right.
use it right
I
now.
would have
Talk
been
about NIL.
Yeah,
Bro,
Just Odell.
we're looking at Odell like, Kinfolk.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? What up, G?
I'm at the D line.
He's going through the wide receivers, and we're just like, hey, fam,
Yeah,
like, what's good?
About the trenches.
Everybody eats.
Oh my God, that's
funny.
good. So after the Natty, was that your senior year?
That was my last year.
So what were you thinking going into national championships played what, a week
January
before?
17th.
Yeah, 2 weeks before the Super Bowl. So you don't got much time to prep. What were you thinking going into, what were you hearing coming out of college from NFL scouts or from your own coaches and shit?
So, bro, we didn't have pro days that year. Like that, I came out the COVID year, and it was very
Wow.
hard. There was no visits. I had like 6 official 30 visits set up with teams, and it all got canceled. There was nothing, there was no pro days, there was no visits.
Wow.
The draft was at home. Everything was virtual. Like I was taking meetings with teams through FaceTime. And it was a crazy time because every team I talked to was like, man, we have like a 4th, 5th round grade on you. We're really high on you. And so, we'll see how this draft goes. And then, we get to draft day and it's just like round by round, you see names get ticked off the board and you're just like, the fuck is my name going to get called?
Yeah.
Then your name doesn't get called and you're just like, and then every team's like, man, we couldn't get no proper evaluation on you, but we really like you and we want you to come as an undrafted, free agent and this and this.
Sick.
And I'm sick. I'm sitting in my apartment in Baton Rouge. I'm just like,
This sucks.
F this. Like
Yeah.
I'm over it. But it's all worked out, man. I'm going into year 5, still in the NFL.
Yeah, it worked out. You started in LA with the Chargers. Did you hear from them? Were they one of your visits?
They were the first team. They were the first team they hit me up in the 5th round. They called me in the 5th round.
What? And they didn't draft you?
No, they called me and they're like,
I'd be
hey,
pissed.
it's hard to draft guys we don't do evaluations on, and I didn't get an invite to the combine. So the combine was the only in-person evaluation they had that year. After the combine, at the end of February, March, everything shut down in the world. And so the Chargers hit me up in the 5th round. They're like, hey, Breiden, man, we love you. So I'm thinking, oh, okay, cool. And then they're like, you know what? We're going to offer you a free agent deal right now. We'll give you some good money. And when I heard that in the 5th round, the younger part of me at that time was like, F that, I'm going to get drafted.
Yeah.
So I tell them no. So I tell the Chargers, no, I'm good. I'm going to get drafted. The Giants call at the end of the 5th, going into the 6th. The Giants are like, hey, we have 4 picks left for the draft. We're going to use one of them on you. This is the defensive coordinator that just texted me.
Oh.
Calls me back in 20 minutes. He's like, man, I'm sitting here. We're in the war room. I'm here with the GM, here at the D-line coach. Gives the phone to the D-line coach. It's Sean Spencer, Patrick Graham. I'm talking to him on draft day. And they're like, man, we want you. We're vouching for you. When he said, we're vouching for you, that's when I kind of got the hint, I don't think they're trying to draft me. I think it's kind of smoke. But they're like, if we don't, we're going to sign you to an undrafted free agent contract. And at that point, I was just like, all right, whatever. So I kind of let my agent handle it. The Cardinals called, the Lions called, the Packers called. Everybody was trying to secure free agent deals in the later rounds. And then long story short, I ended up taking the least amount of money out of all my free agent deals to go back with the Chargers. Just because I felt like I had the best opportunity to go play.
That was the best chance.
And I played 3 good years there. Yeah. So I enjoyed it. It all worked out.
So is that just curious? Is that whenever they're doing the draft and they realize because I feel like it's a secondary draft with the free agents, to be able to get the undrafted guys. Is it a way for them to position themselves where we really like this guy, he's on our radar, but it's cheaper if we get him outside of the draft? What do you think the knowledge is behind that, and why do you think? Because the way I do look at it, it is like a secondary draft. If you play your cards right, you there's gems in there, So what do you what's your experience with something like that, knowing that you're good enough to be drafted, but then people are what about after?
One of the biggest things is you look at how people draft, right? You're in the first 3 rounds, you're ideally drafting a guy to either be a day 1 starter,
right,
an immediate impact guy, or a guy that'll see the field his rookie year as a rotational piece.
Yes.
Those are the guys you draft in the first 3 rounds. Now 4, 5, 6, 7 is depth, developmental, and special teams pieces.
Right.
If I really like a guy and I think he'll be a developmental piece, but he's not at a premium position, and I say premium position as in running back, quarterback, receiver, DB, I'm gonna wait till undrafted free or till free agency starts to sign him to an undrafted contract because you don't want to spend. You still want to get the most out of your draft picks, and you always want to spend them on premium positions, positions that can impact the game in the quickest way possible.
Right.
And so if I have a D lineman I really like, and I have him as a 5th or 6th round grade, but say my D line room's already stacked, I have good players from the year prior, I have good veterans that I'm paying really well. Why go spend a draft pick on that player in the 5th or 6th round when I can go get a guy like a running back or a wide receiver,
gamble on that,
who can be a depth piece, but I know he'll play special teams for us this year.
Right.
I know he'll play on the field, rather as if I draft this D lineman, he's not going to play. He's going to be on the inactive list. He might go to the practice squad. We don't know that. And so those are things that play into the fact of sometimes it's better to go undrafted as far as like a guy in my position who's you don't want to be locked down, because sometimes if you're locked down in that draft pick position and you just kind of fall behind the radar a little bit, now it's this guy hasn't developed. We wasted a draft pick on him. Then you start developing that image that you've kind of faded out as like a draft pick who didn't hit for them.
Right.
You know, you eventually throw darts at the board. Some of them are going to stick. You know that, right? Some of them aren't going to stick. But more than often, you want the ones that stick. And so, you know, scouts and GMs are going to try to spend it on premium picks and guys who they know can contribute from day one.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's like an art to it. And I know in baseball, like baseball, they don't even care. You're just getting the highest value. It doesn't matter if you already have a superstar, because baseball is one of those sports where it takes so many years to develop some of these guys. So it's just interesting, the psychology behind, you know, some of these draft picks and how they go about it, because there is a system to it. And like, what would you say, if any, is there like a tougher position to be drafted in? Like, where is it the trenches that they look at as like, oh, we could probably snag a guy in the you know, in the undrafted free agency? Is that like kind of, you know, what do you think the position is that is mainly sitting in those, the P squad or undrafted free agents?
I never really thought of it like how you said about drafting. Like, if you're drafting a D lineman, like that dude needs to be playing, because he's not going to play teams.
That's what I'm saying.
So wow, it is way harder to get drafted as a D lineman.
So everybody told me like, man, you should get into scouting GM when you're done. Like, you have a good vision of it. But my whole thing about it is like, with positions, if I know a guy's not going to contribute meaningful snaps for me this year, I'm not going to spend a draft pick on him.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And those positions to me are like a true nose tackle, a fullback.
Gotcha.
Depending on the scheme, a tight end.
Gotcha.
Any specialist, kicker, punter, long snapper. No offense.
No offense taken.
They don't really draft. I mean, they draft maybe one long snapper every 2 years, kind of deal. One kicker, one punter.
Great.
You know, like you don't really see like 4-3 outside linebackers get drafted. Like
Hardly ever anymore.
Right.
It's really 3-4 Mikes and a lot of nickels that get drafted in the draft now. And the way teams build is like everybody's kind of going to like a 4-2-5 or a 3-4 system where you got really good outside stand-up outside linebackers instead of the off-ball like who's old buddy from San Francisco that plays next to Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw.
Yeah,
you don't really see guys drafted like Dre Greenlaw anymore,
right?
You know, because the game's changing and fading out into Deshaun Elliott's playing in the box now.
Yep.
Kyle Hamilton from the Baltimore Ravens coming down.
Derwin
Bigger
James.
safeties. Derwin James that can boot a Baker that can just roam around.
So you're talking about the changes of the game, and I know we talked about this. You mentioned it to me earlier.
Yeah.
Like the game's changing. It's getting faster. Is it changing from a nose tackle's perspective? Like, are the centers quicker when they're reaching you, or is everyone quicker? Or do you have to like work on different things for you in a sense, because you're like, damn, the game's faster, a lot more outside runs, a lot more outside zone. Like, you really got to get down the line. So, like, how has the game changed in your position that you've noticed?
I think the game is starting to, in my opinion, I think football's a revolving wheel. And I think we're at the point in football now where the wheel's starting to turn back to 2010, 2011-ish-esque football.
I like that.
A lot of 21 personnel, 22, 13 heavy with an extra offensive lineman.
I like that.
Big receivers on the outside. From 2016, 17-ish, it was all speed. You know, Doug Peterson in Philly, they had all these gadgets, RPOs, Chip Kelly introducing them to the NFL, Tyreek Hills. your Jalen Waddles. I mean, all these guys who could take the top off of defense. Well, when teams start spending money in the offseason and spending draft picks to acquire fast guys, how do you combat that? Well, you combat that by getting bigger guys,
Right.
getting them in smaller packages. So you come out. I'm going to football nerd stuff here, but you trot out 11 personnel, like the Ravens do.
11 personnel.
11 personnel.
One running back, one tight
end.
end. So he goes running back. So if you say 12 personnel,
12 personnel.
one running back, two tight ends.
ends.
13, one running back, three tight ends.
So
And then
you
receivers
trot out 11 personnel because you know the defense is going to be a nickel, ideally a smaller, faster package, and you run the ball down their throat.
Yeah.
Because that's what is going to combat. And you look at teams like, I mean, we're doing it. We run the ball. I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers have always historically
been that
run the
way.
ball.
Yeah.
But the Ravens, the Chargers are getting back into that. Kansas City starting to run more 12 and 13 than they ever have. I mean,
Right.
this is Kansas City we're talking about with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, and
Yeah.
they're running 12 personnel.
Two tight end sets
You
running
know,
the fucking
It's interesting.
ball.
Yeah.
It's very different. I think the game's revolving back, and I think you're starting to appreciate more, nose tackles, nose tackle play, run stoppers. You're starting to appreciate more good fullback play. The San Francisco 49ers, good usage of guys like that in the system, and
Good tight end play as well.
great tight end play.
Good
tight
blocking
ends
tight ends, bro.
Good blocking
Yeah.
tight ends. So it all matters. It's a wheel. It's revolving, and I think that the NFL will eventually start to get into more of the, draft bigger guys, powerful, maulers type, and it'll just keep going in a circle.
Yeah, and like, so are you notice, like, I mean, when you're changing that stuff, because like I remember a time of like Vince Wilforks and stuff like that,
Yep.
Chris Canty, just straight up, guys that are just opening up holes for the guys. Like, so are you, as you're traveling through a NFL career, is your like body weight changing? Is your style of play, like, are you going from, I bull rushed all last year to now I'm more of like I don't want to say an edge rusher because you're obviously in the middle, but like, is every year that changing? And like, can you explain that to the people, like how taxing that is? Because you probably grew up doing one thing. I was watching some interviews by you, and you're just like straight bull rush, right? And that's what your specialty is. But maybe 3 years out of your career up to this point, that was like not really what was needed or asked. So like, can you talk about just having to be flexible as the league's changing, so you have to adapt to that? Like, so what's that like in that position?
100%. Just for example, my rookie year, I weighed 295. I played in a 4-3 system in LA under Gus Bradley, who's the defensive coordinator for the Colts now.
Yeah.
And that defense was all penetrate, get in the gap, just get up the field, attack. You got to be in shape, play with a lot of effort.
Yep.
You're always playing with effort, of course.
Yeah.
My second year in the league, we convert to a 3-4 system under Brandon Staley, and now I go from a 4-3 technique shade to a 3-4-0 nose. And so I go from 295 to 315 my second year in the league.
Crazy.
And I think that's the hard part about being a young guy who's unproven.
Yep.
Is you have to be able to adjust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to be able to be available. You have to be able to learn how to play at 315 in the shape of a year because you're not a Pro Bowler, right? Guys like, Cam, TJ, who've been doing it at a high level for
they
many
adapt
years,
to them.
You
have
adapt to them.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Coaches
That's what I mean.
adapt to them. That's
exactly.
the difference.
Yeah.
As a proven guy, as
Right.
future Hall of Famers.
Right.
But for young guys, it's very important that they have to adapt. They have to get their weight up if they're in a different scheme, get their weight down, learn a technique, how to play it a certain way, how to play it how this coach wants it compared to your second and third year, how a different coach wants it.
Yeah.
And that's the crazy part about this league is if you don't adapt and if you don't, make yourself available to change, they'll find somebody else to do it.
Yeah. It's interesting, even with the, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but just the Preston thing, the Preston Smith thing, he wanted out of the system, to my knowledge.
Because he wasn't a 4-3 guy.
Right. And he actually can, dictate where he kind of goes and how that works because he is a proven guy. So it's interesting.
Even in the new space, and you're talking about something that is happening in the NFL, I think it's also happening at the college level nowadays because of NIL. So, like, talk a little bit more about that in terms of, like, learning how to play a role and how important it is to play your role. Because right now, I feel a lot of guys, they get so caught up in, I'm the guy, right? When you realize you get to the NFL, like, everybody is not only the guy, but, like, there's a guy that's even more the guy than the guy. You know what I'm saying? So, like, talk a little bit more about that.
I saw somebody tweet the other day. They were like, the quarterback position in the NFL is struggling. And I said, well, why is it struggling? I said, the reason is you're paying all these kids NIL money in college, whereas you're paying for names, you're not paying for development.
Right.
Come on.
Yep.
They're more focused on, getting, no offense, they're more focused on getting an Arch Manning to Texas and, giving Quinn Ewers or Carson Beck Lamborghinis. Well, instead of giving them Lamborghinis, put that effort into developing these kids before the NFL.
Yeah.
You wonder why, the first pick of the draft last year is struggling in Chicago right now. Well, you're not developing them. You're putting them in systems to make plays. And I've always felt like college is so schematically based where
it's bad.
You catch a lot of bad football in
bro.
college on Saturdays, right? Like there's like wide open guys.
Yeah.
There's set plays where it's like you can dial up stuff. Like in the NFL, it's very individually technique based. It's all about one-on-one matchups. So if you're not technically sound, you'll get exposed, right? And when guys come from college that have been heavily schematically reliant on their success but have no individual technique fundamental tools, they struggle a lot when they get to the NFL because of that reason that they didn't develop.
It's funny you said that because we had Kyle Allen in here, and Kyle talked about quarterbacks, and Pat Mahomes sat behind Alex Smith. And he was talking about that year of development and how important that was for him to sit behind Alex Smith.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to hear from a D-line's perspective, like even you see that. You notice it like it's kind of crazy. And then the development of a D-lineman, is that more like what's the difference between you're in the trenches in the SEC, so like I can't imagine it being that much different than the O-line that you're going against now, or you know what I mean? Like talk me through that. Like how different is because I don't even know how different snapping in college is. I didn't even snap in college. They don't have to block.
Yeah.
But how different is it for you to like you're going against Bama's O-line? They probably had 4 guys drafted and high, but now you're going against NFL offensive linemen. How different is it?
It's very different.
Technique based?
No, it's fast. Like
that's what
when you
Peyton was
play
saying.
when you play against Bama and stuff, like it's going to be a physical game. It's some big hog molly mother effort, some corn fed mother effort lining up in front of you. Like they're going to put 350 pounds of weight and just lean on you, right?
Yeah.
Like you prepare for that. Like I know that's coming. But in the NFL, like offensive linemen now are like 290. 305,
Right.
running 4.9,
They can run.
40s.
Yeah.
They can move.
Shout out to my
Like,
dog.
like backflips.
They can
and
run.
stuff.
Like
Yeah.
Roderick Jones is
Fast.
6'6", 6'7", 320 pounds, and he can move. I'm talking
Man.
about like
Oh, he's fast.
if
crazy.
you give him one
Scary.
step, he can
Yeah.
cut you out back. And that's what I had to adjust when I got to the NFL was
you get cut off
you
and
don't-
lose your gap. Like
you don't
this.
look at offensive linemen as fat boys anymore, even though like I still do. Like I have that hate for them. Like they're big, they're big skills.
Bring it back.
Like they call them big skills. Like
Yeah.
that's what Mike T calls them, big skills.
So
like,
my
'cause they're
one
big
homie,
men.
my one homie was a tight end before he became a left tackle, and like you could just see his athleticism. His name is Brian. He plays for the Vikings.
He's probably one of the best in the league.
Yeah, right
Brian
now.
O'Neal.
Yeah, O'Neal. So
Yeah.
like,
Good player, really good player.
but like if you see him play basketball, he's a good hooper too.
I'm pretty
so like
sure.
you see these guys who are playing left tackle or even playing guard when they pull. Right, these guys are not normal. Like when you were in high school and college, you see a big guy pull, you're like, I'm not worried about
Not
that.
worried.
I'm not
Yeah,
worried
slow.
about that. But these guys, when they're pulling, like the cuz from Indianapolis,
Yeah,
Quinn
Quinn Nelson.
yeah.
bro, when he pulls, like
It happens now.
it's right now. You're
happens
gonna feel
now.
it. So talk about that a little bit. Like, who's an offensive lineman who you're like,
Yeah.
no, that's the most athletic offensive lineman I've seen.
In college when I played against Cam Robinson from Alabama
Yeah, the tackle.
and Laramie Tunsil.
oh yeah.
I knew Laramie Tunsil was the truth in college. He came out, no knee braces, no socks, ankle cleats as an offensive lineman.
You know he's fast.
He had those, those carbon vapor cleats
Yes.
like the DBs.
That's
wear, those
crazy.
cool,
That's
like
crazy.
The fire, like they're fire.
That's
Yes.
crazy.
That's
Tunsil
scary
had those
look.
on,
No,
no
he
wrist
didn't.
tape, just gloves and those with ankle socks, and I was like, yo, this motherfucker.
That's
No knee
crazy.
braces?
No knee braces, crazy for offensive
They don't
line.
even let him do that in practice. Like,
Right,
No.
right.
That is crazy for an
No.
offensive
For
lineman.
an O-line. Low cut cleats as a skill, as an offensive lineman wearing skill cleats.
That's scary.
It's nuts. I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, he got it. You got it, big dog.
he's that athletic. That's crazy.
That is crazy. Well, before I know we got to get you out of here, but before we wrap up, I want to talk about our season right now, what's going on. Big win in Washington. What are you seeing from like your perspective of our D line, our defense, even our offense? Like what are we doing well? Like we're finding out how to win games, which is sick. Like normally we always know. I feel like Pittsburgh always knows how to win games. We win tight games, but like it's just we're winning a little bit different than we had. Like we're putting up 28 points. We put up 35 points.
That's crazy work.
Yeah.
So like, and we're winning. So it's a little bit different. What's your perspective on, the D-line, defense? Like we're deep in all positions. Like
I think what I see is we gel a lot better this year.
Yeah,
I mean, I've only been here 2 years, but just I think the mentality of the defense. I mean, and it starts with Cam, TJ, Larry, E-Rob, Mink, all those guys, PQ, that have instilled the identity of like they don't run the ball, and we get them in pass situations, and we let those guys on the outside eat.
Yes.
And as a team, I think we're starting to figure out that we're not the old Pittsburgh Steelers that just try to like run the ball, play conservative, try to stay around long enough games. I think people are figuring out like
we're gonna throw that thing.
We're gonna throw that thing. We can
toss
score.
that.
Like
I'm loving it.
we ain't afraid to like take shots, and we ain't afraid to get a gun and just start ripping shots through the seam to move.
Yeah.
Let Calvin eat up the sideline. Let GP Mike like,
Williams coming in.
People starting to realize like, oh shit, like Pitt got like be afraid because like them boys is coming, and it starts from practice. Like
100%.
I'm not surprised at what we did against the Commanders.
It just feels a little like, and I tell people this, it feels a little different than it did last year, and even the year before for me, and the year before that. Like, it feels a little different in here. Like,
it feels more fluid.
Yeah,
like,
it feels
we're
a more
fluid,
complete team.
Complete.
Yeah,
team,
we've had like a tradition for so long of like running the ball and like power football and all that. And I think the only reason why we were ever even throwing down the field or having big games is just Ben just calling his own shots at that point. Like he was even forcing that. Like I think where he's just like, no, we're doing this. Like, but it's just it definitely is cool because I think most of my lifetime I've seen 13-10 football for a long time. It's great to be getting wins and stuff, but like we've never had like then you have like the Chiefs come in and like the runs that you see some of these teams have where you're like, oh, that's fun football. Yeah. And like Steelers are playing fun football, and I love watching Russ just throwing it up to these guys that can make plays. Like let your guys make plays. Yeah. And I'm loving like the leashes are off a little bit. I still think we have our identity. I mean, we have two incredible running backs between Najee and Jalen. Jalen's a mixture of speed and power.
Yeah,
like I would not want to line up with that guy in the whole, any of them really. But like it's just cool to see that we still have our identity, but we're letting it rip, and it's really panning out, and it's just a different ball of football, and I love it.
For sure, man. I don't think I've ever seen it either.
It's different.
I've never seen you guys play like this, so I'm happy to be a fan of it. You know what I'm saying? But also with that said, bro, it's good to just see you guys coming together. Because like a game that's 20, what was the score? 28-27. Bro, that's a close game, bro. It takes a team to do that.
Yeah, and coming together, like how often do you see teams that like, shout out to Khan bringing in all these different names. Like one, that was something that Pittsburgh really was. We always kept our guys like through the whole time. We're bringing in guys, and it's also gelling. Like I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the Tomlin or the Steelers aura or whatever it is, but like it's great to watch because rarely, like I remember watching the Eagles the one year, they brought in all these great names and they didn't play well because it's hard to mesh. But I think like this is if we're gonna bring people in and Tomlin could keep everybody in line, if that's what's happening, man, this could be dangerous. Like this could be like the next 10 more years. You know what I'm saying?
Could be for sure.
So it's exciting.
It's fun. It's fun. We got a good locker room too. Like our guys, we got a good hilarious locker room.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's a fun work environment for sure.
As long as Christian's in, I think that's why they keep him around, man. It's just like
you need somebody to bully in the workplace. Like
this is crazy, bro. I'm following workers' comp. This is some shit.
Where's HR?
Christian's one of those guys. Like they go to HR and HR just like blows it off.
They're like, wait, was this towards Christian? We're good.
It's fine.
He'll be fine.
It's Christian.
He's okay.
He'll be all right. It's part of his contract.
Yeah.
like Montravis Adams picked me up by my chair and like threw me in my locker and was like, just stay in your locker.
Yeah.
It's
like,
funny.
What
we corner,
bro, they treat him like Ned's the classified.
Bro, his locker's right by the stairway to go up to the meeting rooms, and like
they do that on
every
purpose.
time we catch him sitting there, we'll just corner him in his locker. It's fun. It's fun to bully him.
Don't tell nobody else.
In the most respectful.
He's gonna need a therapist after his NFL career.
We can talk after this, Christian. Man.
It's all right. We're here for you.
Talk
we
to
love
somebody
you.
after this. Well, B, I appreciate you coming in. This has been Real Swing. Appreciate you boys, all you guys. This wraps up season 1, episode 18. I'm doing this thing. What you think of the studio? You like it?
This is dope.
dope.
This is dope. I don't know
Yeah.
what you paid them to do this, but this is dope.
You want to tell them?
We'll tell them when the camera's off. All right, like, share, subscribe, retweet, repost, do all that thing. Boom, boom, bang! Ha!